Welcome to the Testing Guru channel. In this video, we are going to continue with the chapter 1 testing process of the ISTQB test manager syllabus. In the last video, we have already started with the first learning objective of this chapter, which is test planning. And now we will continue with test monitoring and control. So this is the test monitoring and control section. Let's just start going through first and identify the keywords, and then we can start explaining that a little bit further so we are all on the same page here. So what it says: in order for a test manager to provide efficient test control, what is test control? You have a test plan and you want the team to adhere to the test plan. If there are any deviations of the test plan, then that means there are some other testing activities that the test team got distracted to. So we need to control those test activities and get the team back on track. So for that, what we need, and for us it is important as a test manager that we provide this efficiently. So now the next explanation continues. A testing schedule and monitoring framework. This is needed. A testing schedule, that means what we are doing, like what timings, and then what is the schedule, how long it will take, when are we going to start it, and when it will be finished. That testing for all the testing activities, that is the testing schedule, that is needed. And monitoring framework. So we need to have a monitoring framework to monitor and track these activities. So that needs to be established to enable tracking of test work products. Whatever the test team is doing, those are all test work products and the resources against the plan. So we want to track the test work products and the resources against the plan. So why we are tracking this? To make sure that we are adhering to the test plan. This framework should include the detailed measures and targets that are needed to relate the status of test work products and activities. So we need the detailed measures and targets. These are needed, right? We need to know what we are measuring and what are the targets. So when we should finish what and how we are measuring that. So the metrics, if you are measuring, so that needs to be defined and we should have them in our framework. So we can track the status of the test work products and activities to the plan and strategic objectives, right? And for small and less complex projects, if it is really a small or less complex project, then it may be relatively easy to relate test work products and activities to the plan and strategic objectives. For example, if you take a project which is having 4 different modules and you are having a testing plan for module A, testing plan for module B, module C, and then module D, and if you say that by the end of this date we need to finish the testing of module A from the functional point of view, then we will have an integration testing of module A and B by this date, and these are the resources that will be working on this integration testing and the plan for the functional testing. You can have all of those activities in your testing plan, and which resources are going to work on them, and when we are going to start, what is the exit criteria, all of that could be part of your testing schedule. If it is a small project, you can relate these test work products and the activities to the plan and strategic objectives. It is easy, but generally more detailed objectives need to be defined to achieve this. But generally, if you see a kind of a medium complex or even large big complex project, then you generally need to have them detailed that needs to be defined to achieve this. So my objectives, I cannot have very high level objectives, then it is very hard for me to relate it, or there will be a lot of too many relationships will be formed if it is going to be a high level objective. But if I can divide those objectives into relatively smaller, then the test work products the relationship with the objective and the test work product would make more sense. So if you are defining like module A functional testing, and then if you are defining some requirements of that module A functional requirements, and then you are relating the module A functional requirements to the functional test work products, it will make much more sense. Rather you define them at the high level like module A testing, and then you are adding your functional or regression test work products to the module A, then it will become like very high level. So it's always recommended to make them more detailed objectives and then relate your test work products to those objectives. This can include the measures and targets to meet test objectives and coverage of the test basis. It can include measures and targets, what are the metrics or measures that you are using, and the targets to meet the test objectives and coverage of the test basis. Test basis we have already discussed in the previous video. Whatever the basis that you are using or referring to create your tests, if it is a requirement document or a risk document or a design document, all of that could be part of your test basis. Of particular importance is the need to relate the status of work products, status of test work products and activities to the test basis. So if you can relate these two, then in a manner that is understandable and relevant to the project and business stakeholders. So this is really, have given a great importance, because project and business stakeholders, they won't understand a lot of details about the testing or the test types, etc. But if you can relate the test work products to the activities to the test basis, that will give a good understanding to these stakeholders. Defining targets and measuring progress. You are defining the targets and measuring progress based on the test conditions, and groups of test conditions can be used as a means to achieve this by relating other testing work products to the test basis via the test conditions. So what are these test conditions? Test conditions means you are giving, for example, a particular test case can have multiple test conditions. So if my input is this, then I am expecting this as my output. So that is one test condition, right? You can have multiple test conditions within a particular test case. So what we are saying here, defining targets and measuring progress based on these test conditions and groups of the test conditions can be used as a means to achieve this by relating other testing work products to the test basis via the test conditions. Properly configured traceability. So as I said, one test case can have one test condition or multiple test conditions, right? So you can have these test conditions related to the testing work products via the test conditions. They are saying this can be used as a means to achieve this by relating other testing work products. So this is one way of linking and this is used actually for defining the targets and measuring the progress. So this is one way actually we can do that based on the test conditions. That's what they are saying. Properly configured traceability, including the ability to report on traceability status, makes the complex relationships that exist between development work products, test bases and the test work products more transparent and comprehensible. So if we can properly figure out this whole traceability doesn't necessarily need to be your requirement to the test case and the test conditions, but it can also be between the development work products, test bases and the testing work products. So if we can make it more transparent and comprehensible, this traceability could be really helpful to the whole project team, and it can also help in reporting as well. In most of the projects you need to report on the traceability status, so that will give the complete pipeline that okay, this is this development work product for a particular feature so and so, and that feature is part of this requirement document which will be there in the test basis, and then the test work products, if at all if you are creating the regression report or functional report or the test cases report, that all will be linked. Then it will be more transparent and gives a lot of value to your project. So using test conditions is one way, and the other way is to make the relationship exist between the development work products, test bases and the test work products. This is another way. Okay, so now we are talking about how we can do this monitoring, how we can establish the monitoring framework. When we are establishing the monitoring framework, it is important that you need to define the targets and the measures, and what are the different ways to have those targets and measures defined. That's what we are talking about. Okay, these are just the ideas. In different projects you might be following a different way, but this is kind of recommended way that is mentioned in this document. Sometimes the detailed measures and targets that stakeholders require to be monitored do not relate directly to system functionality or a specification. So if stakeholders are asking for some detailed measures and targets that needs to be monitored, they may not be directly relating to your system functionality or a specification, especially if there is little or no formal documentation. For example, if your system requirements are not properly documented, or if there is very little documentation available, then you cannot directly correlate these measures and targets to your specifications. For example, a business stakeholder may be more interested in establishing coverage against an operational business cycle, even though the specification is defined in terms of system functionality. So maybe the specification is defined in the system functionality, but they want to establish a coverage against the operational business cycle. Involvement of business stakeholders at an early stage in a project can help define these measures and targets, which not only can be used to provide better control during the project, but can also help to drive and influence the testing activities throughout the project. So if at all, if there is any such thing that we want to establish, right, detailed measures and targets, most of the times testing team would have their own independent metrics and independent targets that they will monitor. But if we can keep it at the project level, that everyone needs to monitor, track and take controlled actions, then that will help and reduce the stress on the testing team basically. So if you can involve the business stakeholders at an early stage, they can actually help to define these measures and targets, and it can provide a better control during the project, right? But can also help to drive and influence the testing activities throughout the project. Then everyone will understand the importance of a particular testing activity at that particular time, and you will get the proper support from the development team and also other stakeholders involved that are part of your testing process, or that are having some dependency. If your testing plan is dependent on some downstream teams or other integration teams, then they will all fall in that plan, and that can help better coordinate and better manage those dependencies. For example, stakeholder measures and targets may result in the structuring of test design and test implementation work products. If you want to structure it depending on your measures and targets, you can structure the test design and test implementation work products and or test execution schedules to facilitate the accurate monitoring of testing progress against these measures. So if you have the measures already defined in the early stage of your project, then you can have your test design, implementation, execution, all of these schedules you can facilitate according to those measures, the monitoring that you have planned already in your framework. These targets also help to provide traceability for a specific test level and have the potential to help provide information traceability across different test levels. So again, those targets also you can have them at the different test levels, and then you can also provide the traceability for each of that specific test levels. And we also will have the potential then to help provide information traceability across different test levels. So again, test levels is something like if you have functional testing, UI level testing, usability testing, if you have different test levels you can have for each of the project based on the specific requirements, and you can have traceability also for that specific test level, and it will also provide the information traceability across different test levels. Then your high level plan, you're splitting that into different test level plans, and then you are following or your the test schedule and monitoring is helping or is influencing all the plans of your test levels. That will provide a holistic information across all the test levels you have, or even all the test teams that are following these or implementing these different test levels within the company. Yeah. Test control is an ongoing activity. Test control, now we are actually talking about this. This is from the time you have started your test plan. Test control will start will be enforced. It involves comparing actual progress against the plan and implementing corrective actions when needed. So you are comparing your actual progress against the plan. If you have like different test levels in your test plan, and if you have made the dates or the weeks, and then by the end of that week that you have planned, you need to check what is the actual progress. Is it adhering to the test plan? If it is not, then you need to implement the corrective actions. Test control guides the testing to fulfill the mission, strategies, and objectives, including revisiting the test planning activities as needed. If sometimes you also may need to revisit. If you have planned something only for a couple of weeks and after that you realize that, oh, it's too much of work that I cannot finish in 2 weeks, then yes, you need to revisit. You need to put the deviations, understand the updated knowledge or the more recent knowledge that you have acquired, and based on that you need to update your plans and the activities as per the need. Appropriate reactions to the control data depend on detailed planning information. So this is something that you can continue. It will be a continuous and ongoing activity once the test plan is prepared until you achieve that mission. Okay, now they are saying the content of test planning documents and test control activities are covered in chapter 2, but we have already got very good information in the first chapter about test planning, test monitoring and control. I hope things are a bit clear now, and if you need more details, or if I am going fast, or if you want me to explain a little bit more, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much for watching.